Continuing from part one, I did part one the other day, entitled Love and Flip Flops, the complicated relationship between Queen Op and the Flip Flopsters. Go check that out if you haven't already. Okay? I went over why Shell isn't showing up to court. Very important because a lot of people are asking the same question. And they're just coming up with different theories. And I'm telling y'all why she isn't showing up to court. Okay? Why she's still unsafe with the people that she's with. I also went over that. I went over why my purpose and intention here is bigger than I also read some of the comments shared by the 1% because what they shared, it made absolute sense. And it was insightful and they beautifully added on to what I've shared thus far concerning Shell, right? And I also went over where her future may or may not hold, depending on the actions of her immediate family, the people that she's with now. Okay, so I went over all of that. Also, I touched on how the Flip Flopsters stand on lies, delusions, and deception for their own agenda for reasons other than pursuing justice for Shell. Standing on lies, coming up with fake receipts and fake news and all of that, right? Okay, speaking of lies, real quick. People like to be lied to. And I'm going to tell y'all why. Because many people are liars. The truth cuts, while lies, on the other hand, they soothe and they bring comfort. Hence the saying, ignorance is bliss. Because telling the truth and being able to receive the truth without becoming unhinged and wanting to hurt others and even yourself, right? That requires you to operate from a certain state of mind. And to get to that certain state of mind, to that certain mental state, which allows you to tell the truth and to receive the truth, means that you have to change. And the process of change can be very uncomfortable and even painful for a lot of people because you have to go from one way of being to another. Okay? And this is why most people are stuck in life, unwilling to change, continually choosing the path of least resistance because they're afraid to change, because all they know is what they've been doing. And that's to dwell in the comfort zone, right? So now I'm going to continue with where I left off at as far as the psychology behind the Flip Flopsters. This is very important, okay? And why they have a love-hate relationship with I. The Flip Flopsters see themselves in I. She's a mirror to them. And that's where the love-hate dynamic comes into play. Because on one particular day, she might reflect a kink that they have, right? Or something that they have buried or repressed. She'll reflect that to them. And then on the next day, she might reflect a dark trait that the Flip Flopsters have that they haven't come to terms with, right? That they haven't accepted about themselves. And I spoke about how Op is skilled at speaking to the lower nature in people, to their darker sides, particularly other females. This is why she's adored and admired by a lot of chicks. And I already spoke about when that video came out, when her and Danny was outside the courthouse. A lot of chicks came out and expressed how much they loved her and missed her. A lot. Way more than the Justice for Shell. Okay? So she's adored and admired by a lot of chicks and hated because she reflects parts of them that they're running from. Right? So it's a love-hate dynamic. It's an admiration-envy dynamic. Remember I mentioned that there's a fine line between genuinely wanting justice for Shell and hating on Op. There's a fine line. There's also a fine line between admiration and envy, love and hate. Okay? So the main reason is that they can relate to her trifling ways. They can relate to her trifling ways of being. And on top of that, she glamorizes degeneracy. This is why the Flip Flopsters love her. She glamorizes it. She makes it look easy. She makes it look easy. She makes it acceptable. She glamorizes it. This is why they love it. They'll never admit this. A lot of them don't even know that this is what it is because they're on autopilot. But this is what it is. This is what it is. And since it's mostly females that are in love with her, we can presume that many of them have children. And they do. A lot of the flip-flopsters secretly admire Up for having the audacity to freely, nonchalantly, and unabashedly speak about her giving her child away, right? Or even just entertaining the idea of giving her children away. I saw a video where she spoke about how easy it is for her to have a baby, right? And how easy it is for her to have a baby and then not want to hold the baby as a way to prevent any form of bonding to take place. And then she hand the baby over for adoption. She spoke about how easy that is, right? That's what a lot of chicks admire and envy about her. I also saw another video where after she had her daughter, she mentioned something kind of like in a joking way, but we know it wasn't a joke. How she didn't want her other kids to get any bright ideas as far as coming over just because she just brought the new baby home. She meant that. But that's what a lot of chicks love about her. Very forthcoming with her lifestyle choices. Freely, nonchalantly, and unabashedly. There's a lot of unspoken feelings and sentiments and truths surrounding motherhood that I would say is still taboo. Okay? When it comes to Up and her unapologetically picking and choosing which nut to keep. Y'all heard her say that. She picks and chooses which nut she's going to keep. Okay. But this is why the flip-flopsters admire and envy her about that. They wish that they could have done the same thing, but they couldn't because of the fear of being socially rejected, ostracized, and criticized. That's what it is. And again, a lot of chicks, they're not going to admit that. That's a lot. To admit that means that you're really self-aware. You have a high level of self-awareness to even admit that that's what you admire and love about it. A lot of chicks are not going to admit that. So yeah, so a lot of chicks, they're not going to admit that because Op not only has done the things they secretly wish they could have done. Yeah, wish they could have done. But she's unapologetic about it. She unapologetically speaks about it on a whim, right? There's a lot of admiration and envy, love/hate surrounding her doing that, doing what other chicks secretly wish they could have done and want to do now. Okay? Because we all know being a mother, motherhood, and especially a single mother, can be extremely taxing on a woman's physical and mental health. Everyone knows this. Okay? It really doesn't matter if you have a support system. It helps. But even if the father is in the home, we all know the baby still want to be on the mother. Still want to follow the mother around. Can't even go to the bathroom. The children are following you into the bathroom. It's a lot. And especially when you have multiple children. Even if the father is there. Okay, the babies want to be up under the mother. Under a certain age. That's just what it is. It's still rough. It's still a rough thing for the mother to experience. Okay? Think about all of the news stories. I see them all the time on my YouTube timeline. You know, different news outlets sharing stories of women who experienced a mental breakdown. They snapped, just broke, end up unaliving their children. Okay? Because for whatever reasons, they became overwhelmed to the point where they snapped and they unalived their children. It could be other factors at play, but that's a thing, is the point I'm making. That's a thing. Because oftentimes, they never wanted the children to begin with. Okay? I mean, you still, in 2024, you still have chicks having babies to attach themselves to a man. And we all know that that game been played. That hasn't worked. That has never worked. That has never worked. But again, in this day and age, you have chicks that are still moving like that, among other reasons. Okay? So when the Justice for Shell train came along, the same chicks that secretly admired Op for giving her children away, didn't want them, boldly, nonchalantly, freely, and unabashedly speaks about it. The same chicks that secretly admired her for that are the same chicks that used that against her when the Justice for Shell train came along, when the tides turned. They weaponized the very thing that they secretly and openly admired her for. And again, a lot of chicks are not going to admit this, but I know what time it is. I said before, I can read beneath the surface when it comes to women. And couple that with the obster archetype being a pathological liar. Okay? The flip-flopsters are very disingenuous and pathological liars. Y'all know how children will play fight each other, right? That's the dynamic when it comes to Op and the flip-flopsters. Them acting like they want her to go to prison and all that, hoping DHS takes her baby. You know, DHS is what we call CPS in Philly. Fake hoping that DHS takes her baby. Pointing out her poor behaviors. All of that is a performance. I said before how performative they are. So they're play fighting her like elementary school children in a schoolyard at the playground. It's all a performance, right? Where they want to hurt you, but not really, because they still want to be your friends afterwards. This is what they're doing. This is the flip-flopsters and Op. This is the dynamic between them. Play fighting. They're play fighting. They don't really want her to go to jail. Evidence by how many people came out the woodworks expressing how much they loved and missed her. When that video came out with her and Danny outside the courthouse, that was evidence. Play fighting Op, that's the best way to describe the dynamic between Op and the flip-flopsters. Play fighting. Op, you know we don't really mean that. We want you to be a little uncomfortable, but we really don't want to see you go to jail. We're going to pretend like we Justice for Shell, but we really don't mean that. That's the dynamic. You know, chicks was thrilled. Look at how thrilled chicks were to see Op in that video. I saw one chick claiming to be Justice for Shell in another comment section, talking about how excited she was to meet Op in person once upon a time in the comment section of the actual video. This is what's out here. And I'm going to keep speaking on that. I'm not going to let none of this just fly by. Man, none of it. I'm going to continue to point it out. This is the majority out here, including so-called content creators. Op is their bread and butter. Op brings in the most views. This is where the fake news and the fake non-existent receipts come at. Before Shell was rescued and after. This is what it is over here. Okay? Another reason why the dynamic between Op and the flip-flopsters is a love-hate, admiration, envy dynamic. The flip-flopsters lack empathy, just like their leader, Op, just like their bread and butter, their hero, or I should say, their heroine, right? People who lack empathy tend to objectify other people, viewing other people as objects to be toyed with, misused, and abused to satisfy their own perverse desires. This is another reason why they love her one day, hate her the next. They all lack empathy, which causes them to objectify people, like Shell was objectified. Again, Op is their mirror, and she makes people feel Comfortable. Feel is the key word. She makes people feel comfortable in their degeneracy. She glamorizes degeneracy. She makes it beautiful. She makes it easy and acceptable. Low grade, bottom feeder behavior and ways of being. I view Shell as an object. That's how she viewed her. And still, I viewed Shell as an object. That's why it was easy for her and the other flip-flopsters to violate Shell in the most egregious of ways. They removed the humanity from Shell and chose to view and treat her as an object because they don't have a moral compass. They don't have a moral compass. The love turned into hate when the shift occurred, when the tide turned from violating Shell to the collective agreement. Another key word, agreement. To the collective agreement of getting justice for Shell. That's when they started hating on her. Because remember, her cult followers, they have no independent thought process. The flip-flopsters, no independent thought process. They operate as a group. They operate from group mind and herd mentality. They started seeing when the tide turned, everybody was going in the direction of getting justice for Shell. So that's the direction they went into. Please. All cat. All performative. Okay? So they all lack empathy, which causes them to objectify other people, removing their humanity. Like Shell's humanity was removed when Danny came in. Randy Who, Juicy, and whoever else. All the people that called up to the lives. All of them removed Shell's humanity. The other person, he, she, they, them, whatever. Dukiana. When Dukiana was there, he was trying to get started. He, she, they, them was trying to get started, but he hurried up and got his mind right. He hurried up and got a clue and got out of Dodge before he was really implicated along with the other ones. Okay? Removed her humanity from her. And then when the tide turned, when it was all justice for Shell, that's where they went. Herd mentality, like a bunch of sheep. Like the flip-flopsters are emotionally damaged. These are emotionally damaged people that we're dealing with. And they love how Op has no regard for other people. None. No regard for how their behavior and their actions impact other people. That's another thing that they love about her. Because they have a deep-seated rage and resentment of others. And because they refuse to work on their emotional health and the damage and brokenness that they feel deep within, they love how Op caused emotional damage to Shell. They loved that. Shell became their scapegoat. Shell was a scapegoat for Op and the flip-flopsters. Where it turned into hate, the envy-hate dynamic, when Op said or does something that triggers them, that's when they turn on her. That's the admiration / envy, love / hate dynamic. Okay, remember, the Opster archetype is extremely impulsive. Remember, I went over that in the Opster archetype video. They carry a sense of entitlement to say and do whatever they want without consequence. This is why the flip-flopsters love Op, because she's impulsive and she lives on the edge. They like how she was able to inflict pain onto Shell on a whim, whenever she felt like it. They love that about her. Danny, Juicy, Randy Who, all them other people on the weird apps, people that called up there, they love that. Without a second thought, she was just inflicting pain on her and the other ones as well. I mean, look how Danny, Juicy, Randy Who, all them people, look how they couldn't wait to get around Op. They couldn't wait because they had already seen where she had removed humanity from Shell. She removed Shell's humanity and treated her as an object to be played with, misused, and abused. And then, a few of y'all have already mentioned this. Their ultimate goal for the flip-flopsters, obsters, and op was to discard her by unaliving her because they turned her into an object. They objectified her because they lack empathy and they refuse to deal with their own deep-seated emotional pain, resentment, and anger from whatever traumas they're carrying around. These are the type of people we're dealing with. And that shell was handed to. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay? They refuse to deal with their own emotional pain. Okay? There was an unspoken agreement that Shell would be the punching bag and the scapegoat to project their emotional pain onto and make Shell carry their emotional baggage. This is what this was all about. This is what this was all about. This is why they're trying so hard to fight me and stop me from being here. Tried to run me off. This is why. Because I'm telling the truth and I'm going to continue to do it. Continue. I don't care if people's mental health is declining. Good. That means I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. That means what I'm doing is working. That was the unspoken agreement. That Shell would be everyone's punching bag, not just ops, and their scapegoat, because these people are weak. They're weak and degenerate. They refuse to get help. And so what they did was inflict all of their emotional pain. They inflicted it on Shell, projected it onto her, and made her carry their emotional baggage. Made her carry their emotional baggage. That's why they get mad when I say that she has an intellectual disability. Because when I say that, the guilt is just eating them up. It's eating them up. Okay? Op even makes her children carry her emotional baggage. Just like I mentioned in the last video. How she could turn tricks in front of her son within an earshot. I don't care if he's in the next room. He's still in the same building. He's still in the same vicinity with you as you're turning tricks. Not giving a damn about his mental health. How he's going to view women when he becomes a man. And all the women that he's going to project. And I hope not. I hope not. For his sake. All of the pain and emotional baggage that he was made to carry. Along with the other children. That he may, it's a strong possibility as he grows up and becomes a man, that he may project onto women, on somebody else's daughter. This is what we're dealing with. Other people got to deal with the residue of her trash, low-grade, bottom-feeding, degenerate behavior and all the other people that participated and stood beside her doing it. People think because they wasn't in the same room with her that they're not opsters and flip-flopsters. When there's way more of them than it is true justice for Shell supporters. Okay? So, yes, so she makes her own children carry her emotional baggage. Even when they're in utero. Even when she's pregnant with them, they have to marinate in dysfunction and trash for 9 months. Because she refuses to get help. Before bringing another human being in the world. Who were unfortunately left with the daunting task of reversing the emotional damage that she inflicts upon them and everyone else. This is who we're dealing with. Okay, so that's the love/hate dynamic. The love, again, is her being able to live on the edge, to be able to inflict pain on Shell with anybody else, on her own children, on a whim, not have a care in the world, get pregnant, choose the right nut, however she worded it, keep the right nut. They love that about her. These chicks love that. A whole lot of chicks love that, and they secretly admire and hate it. That she was able to give her kids up and speak about it unapologetically. I know that's what it is. But there's so much more that I can get into. I'm going to leave it at that. Because I have some other things I have to take care of today. But that was the main thing that I wanted to speak about as far as why there was a love-hate relationship. Again, I'm here, what I'm doing here is way bigger than the flip-flopsters and the obsters, they have just become case studies. They're case studies. So I'm going to always reference them in their low-grade bottom feeder behavior. I'm going to always reference that. But this is to hopefully help parents. Like the other lady in the last video mentioned how, about her teenage grandson, how she used the videos to teach him about fake friends. This is why I'm here. This is my purpose. So again, shout out to everybody that subscribed. I'm gonna be back. I have a lot more to share. A lot of things that we're gonna connect the dots on. All right.